Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
I can hear myself too. Like I said, my name is Babalwa, and I am the program coordinator at the Stellenbosch University Transformation Office. Once again, thank you so much for coming through today. Just before we get on with the business of today, I'd like to make a few thank yous. I'd like to thank the Stellenbosch University Museum, Ricky Bongani and the staff here at the museum for making this day possible. I'd like to thank the Transformation Office for all the support leading up to this event as well. I'd like to thank Robben Island Museum for putting us in touch with Dr. Malo. And I'd like to thank the Kuyakanya and Silukamba productions that will be coming in later on this evening. When they come in, when they arrive, you will know. You will know. So when something happens, you know it's Silukamba and Kuyakanya. So today we're going to be talking about the role of struggle songs in the attainment of our freedom. Just a brief that I put together to sort of contextualize today's event. Struggle songs sung during the fight against apartheid in South Africa played a major role in the mobilization, building morale, and creating a sense of unity against a common enemy, which was the apartheid state. Today, in contemporary South Africa, struggle songs are the backbone music to all social justice movements and protests. Singing struggle songs invokes nostalgia in others of a not-so-rosy past and a certain sense of belonging to a population of people who seem to be resilient, who thrive despite having every odd imaginable stacked against them. Others are threatened by these songs. They invoke panic, and to others, they energize. These songs let us shout and dance in the confines of the small spaces we were allowed to move in. They remind us of where we come from as the Black nation. They implore us not to forget, and they call us to action. It is against this background today that the role of struggle songs during apartheid will be explored. I will introduce our guests tonight, and can I ask you to please step forward and take a seat on our stage. Tonight we have Dr. Timothy Muntu. I'm so honored and so grateful that you were able to come to speak to us, Dr. Dr. Muntu is a former ANC operative and Mkondo Wesizwe veteran who served 13 years in the infamous Robben Island prison. Upon his release, he went about rebuilding his life and serving our nation. Dr. Muntu served as an official in the KwaZulu-Natal and went on to serve as Director of Outreaches in the Department of Correctional Services. He, at some point, managed Robben Island Museum and is now retired and spends his days reading, writing poetry and sharing his story and the stories of many others who participated in the struggle against apartheid. Again, Ngosi. Like I said, I'm so humbled to have Dr. Muntu here with us today to share his knowledge with us. He will be speaking about the origin of struggle songs, how they came about, what do some of these songs mean, and he will also be performing a few pieces for us tonight. Yes, these are my people. Hi guys. We also have with us today Lwazi Phakade. Lwazi, will you take your seat? Lwazi Phakade is a political sciences student and a former leader of Open Stellenbosch and Fees Must Fall at this university. He's a citizen committed to make South Africa a better place for those. He's committed to make South Africa a better place for the historically disadvantaged Black South Africans. Rwanda will be sharing his views on struggle songs post-apartheid to Fees Must Fall and how struggle songs have been used in contemporary freedom struggles. Thank you once again.
Lwazi.
Lwazi, sorry. I said I'd make this mistake. So sorry. Lwazi Phakade. And lastly but not least, we have Masego Mafata. Hi, Masego. Masego is currently in her second year of a BA International Studies degree here at Stellenbosch University. The realization of social justice and social cohesion is something that she is incredibly passionate about. She enjoys getting involved as much as possible in an attempt to remain intellectually stimulated. She is a member of the UNASA and Amnesty International Societies, as well as part of the Campus Engagement Committee in her residence. Being of service is an important part of who she is. She is a part of the Social Impact Committee in her residence, the Amnesty Outreach Subcommittee, and she volunteers at the Legacy Center. Recently, she revels in the arts and she is part of a team that is in the process of launching a new student news publication aimed at serving as a counter-narrative to the existing narratives dominating student journalism in Stellenbosch. Masego will be commenting about struggles post-Fees Must Fall and what struggle songs and what about struggle songs and what about struggle songs resonates with her today. So thank you once again to everyone. Can I welcome Mutatu Modu to the stage? Can we give them all a round of applause, please?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you? Okay. Yeah, what's so life? I mean, if you come for a funeral, there is a sign that you are mourning or you are weeping, but today are not weeping. We're going to share. As Baba has introduced me, I won't say much because people expect you to speak here. I was sentenced to 22 years. I see one of my colleagues there that I want to acknowledge him, just stand up the Masina. That's also Robben Island. So at least I feel free that if you press me with questions, I'm going to divert some of the questions to him. But in short, I've been asked that I must come and speak about the role of the music. I'm a musician. See, that is the end, a musician. Some are politician. I'm not a politician, musician. But I was involved in politics. Most politicians are those who make politics their career. Politics is not my career. I was involved in the struggle at a very tender age. I could see some people that I am not. I'm part of the 1976 June 16 uprisings that everybody talks about. That youth. You compare the youth of today and our youth is very different. I mean, different values, different tastes. Everything is different. They have technology. We never had wet stones. I mean, that was our technology. But we're not living in a stone age. But we used a lot of stones at the time. To play with stones, even to defend ourselves, even to attack with stones. That's why if you go through 76 biography, you find a lot of stone being used. But today, as I'm being asked to talk about the role of songs, fortunately I was part of the composition of some of the songs. I did not compose alone. Since we're a group, I talk of we. I don't say I. But some people they like to emphasize that I did this. Part of the legacy that I've done, I've written a book. I've just published a book. This is my book, titled Still We Rise. I felt it talks about the journey of a freedom fighter. At the back it says freedom is not free. It is costly. And it requires commitment, determination, discipline and sacrifices. This is the journey the author traveled as a political activist, MK soldier and a political prisoner. the journey that does not stop, but only end when one is in the grave. Others is a continuous journey. That's why we say a luta continua, say the struggle continues. It's not the end of the road. We are still continuing. But maybe as an introduction to what I'm going to say, there's something that I've written about the struggle songs. I started to say struggle songs are a form of music that you shall never forget. They penetrate the ear with facility and challenge a reasoning mind, thereby ignoring the set-up mind and evoke nostalgia. No people can be oppressed forever. This is a special type of music that reminds us where we come from, where we are today, and where we are going. So I've just put this because I like writing. This year I belong to a poetry book. I also write a lot of poetry. I felt this should be the introduction that when you say, we're not going to dance, we don't have to dance with the struggle songs. But as I've put this introduction, I'll be talking and do some demonstrations of some of these songs, because when we started this, we found the struggle going on. We did not start the struggle. We have the elderly that came before us. In the army, also was on condolences. We have detachments, a group of 5,000, every 5,000 people that have been in the army will understand this. There was what was called the Lutuli detachment. Chief Albert Lutuli was an ANC president that died mysteriously. He was found next to the train on the railway line, being killed. So that detachment that were trained at the time, they were named the Lutuli detachment. That was from Mandela up to 1975. All those people were named the Lutuli detachment. Then we came after June 16. We were called June 16 detachment. We know our story. Then there are other detachments that came after us. Young Lions, Moncada, Mandinok, lots of them. But today I won't be talking about detachment. I'm talking about the songs, the importance of songs, the importance how songs are important to us. Remember that in South Africa we have a history. We always refer to our history that we as South Africans. We must have a starting point or a point of reference or a term of reference. We cannot judge people without a history. Some people don't say, they don't like to, for us to say where we come from. No, don't forget the past. We can't believe as if there was no past. I mean, the present that we have, there was a past. And the future will be determined by the present. So it's very important that we make it as a reference, the past as a reference, or a point of entry. But remember that from 1652, the arrival of Van Riebeeck and his crew, what happened in South Africa. I mean, it's where we start colonialism. There were songs, there was music in South Africa. The people that found us here, they found us not. I mean, remember there was a day that was called a Founders Day, that we were founded. I don't know how to find people are there to see a founded day. But we've been questioning this Founders Day, that why is it called Founders Day? They said, no, we were founded. By who? By Van Riebeeck. Did he found us? I mean, did he find us? I mean, when it's something that you find something that is lost, how do you find something that's not lost? Because we're never lost. That's why they say there's lost and found. Then, 1899 to 1902, we know the story of the Anglo-Boer. I'll also be referring to my book here and there. I'll be going forward and backwards. I won't be sequential in my input, but I want to talk about the songs. Songs were very important. They were giving us a moral. You see when you sing, it's like when you work hard. There's a slogan or a glitch that it must be applied, I mean, to make the work lighter. So songs is part of that. We used to sing. I mean, South Africans in particular are different from many people around the world. One of the distinctions is music. I mean, if you go anywhere, they say South Africans can sing. Anywhere you can find the singers. There is no gathering where there is no singing in us. So music is very important in singing. It distinguishes distinguishes us from the rest of other people in Africa. I'm not saying other people can't sing, but they can't sing like us. So we can sing. Other people are also vocally wounded. I mean, amongst us South Africans. I think I must mention that not all of us sing. Some are very, you think a person is talking loud, no person is singing. Then there was a story of the Union of South Africa, we know all that. But I was studying the formation of the ANC after the tribal wars ended, or the struggle for resistance. You remember there was what was called the War of Dispossession. That era ended, the ANC was formed in 1912. So there was a song that was very popular at the time, a song that was saying, we are crying for our country that was taken by the colonizers. It has two tunes as far as I'm concerned, but if you know the date, two variations. The one is saying, I'm sure most of us know it. I'll take my guitar because as I'm interacting with this, I want to demonstrate this. So it will help all of us so that we are on par. Those who know the song, it's much better. Those who don't know the song, I think today is the opportunity to know the song. Because they say, learn until you die. Maybe tomorrow we'll learn other songs. So we have that song that we are going to sing. I will be taking my guitar with the permission of the program director. Can I take my guitar? But I'll need one chair there so that I sit down there. And you don't mind, I'm not going to use a mic because my guitar is not mine, you see. So this song, Sikalela, is on the guitar. But we just, if you can join me, please, but don't spoil the song. Yeah, it's the first song that I'm going to do. Sikalela, Sikalela, Iswe, Ela Tatwa, join me. To my songs. This song I say we're crying for our land that was taken. You remember after ANC was formed in 1912, there was a Land Act in 1913 that African people must get 13% of the land. The white people must get 87%. And the land that was given, it was the marginalized land, the rural, not developed land. So the issue of the land will come from time to time. That's why today we speak of the land, the expropriation of land without compensation. It's not something new. It has been there since 1913. Just a continuation. And if we ignore this issue, it's going to bite us because at some stage it must be addressed. When we have issues, we need to address the issues so that we get rid of them. So this song was saying we are crying for our land that was taken. Then that was in 1912. It was uniting. Then it was also another version. Sikalela izwele githi lona elathathwa ngabugalajana uzokhona ngabugalajana lona elathathwa ngabugalajana bese bethi Mzulu Xhosa Msuthu hlanganani wele Mzulu Xhosa Msuthu hlanganani. Otherwise we're saying Zulu Xhosa Msuthu and others must be together, come together, because it was after the tribal laws. This is the first song that was talking about land. Then in the 50s, there was another song, because who composed songs? Some of the songs were hymns that were taken from the church. You remember there was, because Sigelela is one of the very important songs that we sing when we have a national anthem today. There is a gentleman in the late called Erickson Tonga who composed this. He was a musician and a composer and a teacher. I think he could sing better than many of us here. He composed Kosigelela. Even today, this song is still being sung. From 1917, this song has been sung throughout Kosigelela. We have variations. Yeah, and you see these are musicians also coming in, people talking about music. But what is going to happen is we will join them in their song until they get settled. You see.
Someone getting heated up, you see. Music, the other thing that music helps, besides the history, virtual musicians will understand. We're talking about music today, and you find us in the midst of music discussion. In fact, I'll be engaging everybody on this topic because it's not my topic, it's our topic. As I explained after this there was a time when people of South Africa were very Because you talk at some stage, you get tired of the act of talking. Enough is enough. They were saying, Oliver Tambo was telling Tuli that you must stop what was going on. I think it was during the roaring 50s. So that song, it's in Xhosa and Zulu. It says, Jelani Utambo, tell Tambo and Lutuli to stop all this nonsense. It was a nonsense. Then it was called Ubuzo. And it was saying, let me just demonstrate it. Just that I've said this cheesy, but now my voice is cheesy. Things are jigga, things are jigga. Yeah, they're jigga, they're attending. That's why the song. For those who don't understand Xhosa, things are going to change. Things will turn for the better. What we see now, whoever that composed this song, fortunately, as a musician, as part of the people involved in the struggle, music. Most of the songs I've been part of. Some were composed by my companions, because some songs were composed in exile in Angola, where we were based mainly. Then later, after the Kutokona Valley, we moved to Tanzania and Uganda when there was an agreement. Remember, the Kutokona Valley, everybody knows about it, particularly the people that are studying. But if you don't study, don't mind. But that was a turning point. But some of these songs that were composed, oh, thank you. I was afraid to ask for water. They say he sings one song, then he wants water. After the Kutokana Valley, what happened in South Africa? Just at the pause, the permission. Our bases were moved from Angola to Uganda and Tanzania. But coming back to the song, it was saying, Jelani Tambo, Nolutulba Kandos Busas, and others tell Oliver Tambo and Chival Betul Tuli that they must stop all this nonsense that was going on. Then I'm going to demonstrate it. What was saying, Jelani Tambo, Nolutulba Kandos Busas, well. There's some Tabanya, Silindeli Pendulo, right? I think I must engage you, this song. You will say, Silindeli Pendulo. The first part, the second, Silindeli Pendulo, Kaya Saba Shayati, Nasingagezwa, Silindeli Pendulo. This will not the tool. Especially to you others, I'm sure they're going to struggle to get. Yeah, then it was saying, Jelani Tambo, when you told my titles boss as well. Silindeli Pendulo. Jelani Tambo, when you told my titles boss as well. Silindeli Pendulo. Kege Saba Shayatina, Singagezwa. Silindeli Pendulo. As I told you, can you get it? It's not a choral song. But others are. But it was saying we're not going to act until you get instruction. Because in the struggle, you get distracted. You don't just act. People are waiting for the answer that old Tuli and Tambo must say, now is the time, let's do something. It was the second song. Then in the 60s, remember it is a trial from 1956 to 1960, where 156 people were arrested. But fortunately, they won the case. They were all released. Mandela, they were arrested for 4 years. So, after 1960, ANC embarked on an armed struggle. Then the songs changed now. Then to Sikalela Sakali, remember, started by crying for our land. Sikalela, Yezolangiti, Silindeli Pendulo, have been waiting for the answer. But now it says, then the music changed now. It was depicting the situation. Now we're going to shoot them. We're going to shoot back. Both the shootings, I mean, South Africa know the history of shootings. The first strike was in 1922, the Mine Society. They've been shooting from the 1920s. Even now, there's still shootings. That's why, as a society, some people are still carrying guns all the time. Some they think, when they think, threatening them, where's my gun? You carry a gun. There are those who want your gun. So, where is your gun? I want your gun. And they take it. So this song says, remember the song? Yeah. So that's the English. I need to talk about songs and their meaning. The program director is getting threatened now. She might lose a position or the promotion. But I was saying it wasn't, I don't need to be promoted. Yeah, so sexy about do not get by yeah. I come on it. But I need to protect the program director because she still needs promotion. We're not going to sing it here because she can't join us in the song. But I was saying we're going to shoot back as we're getting short. I know when I was working for the Department of Transport, later I went for the Department of Correctional Services. In the department, you make sure that after the event, you must account, yeah, why did you do this? When all of us are no longer here, she'll be alone. This one will say, so she is it. Then she must answer. But I understand, and I fully support you. Yeah, leadership. The leadership. When there's leadership, there must be leadership. So they go together. One person was telling me within the church, when people go to church, they come together. They call it a fellowship. But when they eat, it's no longer a fellowship. What is it? A swallowship. When they are eating, they swallow, it's a fellowship. Yeah, well. Then after this, the 60s, we come to 70s. During the 70s, 76, as I explained earlier, that I'm part of the 1976 detachment. We're saying we're going to leave our parents, we're going to leave our homes. We're going to look for freedom somewhere. Because you know the story of 76. I won't repeat the 1976. But the song that was very popular at the time, we sang, Sizo Bashia Bazale Kaya, Sabuma, Sangena Babanya Mazwe, Napo Mazeko Baba Noma, Standeli Kulu Lego. You know the song it? Yes. That song can't get demoted for the song it. Yeah. So this is one of the songs. During 76, both were ready to leave the country. So Bashia Bazan, we're going to leave our parents. And where we don't know. And we say we're going to go to other countries. Mozambique was freely liberated Mozambique. We got so encouraged. Angola, MPLA, it liberated Angola. MPLA is a Portuguese name for a movement. It's called Movimento Popular Libertação de Angola. I used to speak a bit of Portuguese. Like when I say good evening, boa noite. Como estás? How are you? We say, and we say, puxa grand. Muito estudado, muito bom. Pagati yabo na dabula obrigado, obrigado. And I say tomorrow, ante manhã, say tomorrow. So I used to speak. These countries that got training, we used to speak the language. So I speak a bit of Portuguese and a bit of Spanish. But we're not talking about languages today, we're talking about the songs. But the saying, so Bashia Bazali, it was a determination song. We leave everything. We leave our brothers and sisters, boss, who are going to look for freedom. Then when we were in the camps, we met other liberation movement. For instance, we met ISWAP of Namibia. I was telling ISWAP. ISWAP was Southwest African People's Organization, ISWAP. We learned some songs, Namibian songs. I'm going to share with you one song of Namibia. I'll sing it for you using my guitar. Fortunately, you don't know it. Perhaps fortunately, people don't know the song. Because if you sing a song, if you sing it wrong, they say, no, but it's wrong. They correct you. Then we also met Zebra of Zimbabwe. ISWAP was led by Joseph Nyoma at that time. We met Zimbabweans, also trained with Zimbabweans. Zebra of Zimbabwe. This Zebra was ZAPU, Zimbabwe African People's Union. We had an alliance with these people. We remember in 1967, our soldiers, they wanted a passage to come to South Africa, so it's in Zimbabwe. They fought in Zimbabwe. Some communists died in Zimbabwe, some were hanged in Zimbabwe. So people of Zimbabwe respect us very much. That their liberation, we have sacrificed with our blood, not just talking. Some people think freedom, we talk a lot, you shout. No, don't shout. Some stage you have to fight. But we also have a song that I said, we say with Isapo. With Iswapo, it was talking about the organization that it was combining the tribes. It was called Lalagano, Yangondo Yetu, Yahangana, Otohana, Evietu, Yamangulugu. That's our organization, Swapo, is bringing all of us together. I will share with you that song. Then we have a Zimbabwean and Gure Wadinova. Otherwise, home is far away. We'll meet in Zimbabwe. Gure Wadinova. Gure Wadinova. E mama ina baba. Ondo Sananaga Zimbabwe Ondo. The struggle. During the struggle, during the whole meeting in Zimbabwe. That was one of the songs that I'm going to share also. I won't sing the whole song, but I'll just demonstrate it as I did with the other one. Then we had another song that when we made friendly in Mozambique, was as we were going to these countries who stayed in Mozambique. You remember this Matola raid, Matola massacre, where our 13 communities were ambushed. In the evening, when they're still refugees, so they just joined the incident condolences. Then they say, Frelimo Vencera, and that's Frelimo became victory. Frelimo Vencera, Frelimo Ganyana. Aluta per liberdade, Frelimo triumphera. That's the Frelimo triumph. It was a Frelimo song. Then there was an Angolan song, So Povo, Umaso Nassau. So Povo, Umaso Nassau, Aluta continua, Kerela Rebubede, Povo camarada, Povo camarada, Povo Impela. This was, Impela is not Impela, it's MPLA. But I don't sing the language of thing in Pele. And I come to the Povo, Impela to Adogam, it's not Impela, it's MPLA. Then there's a latest song that we also invented or produced, taking the lyrics from the Shona lyrics, Pamberi. Pamberi say Pamberi na wondo, Pansi na colonialism, Pansi na imperialism. We used to sing that song. But in South African model, first we changed it. We say Pamberi na wondo, Pamberi na chimurenga, Pamberi na wondo, Pamberi na chimurenga. And there is a CD that we produced in the Romolas Chap. I'm sure you have seen these companies that have combat in ANC rallies. That's my group. I always sing with that group. Because I have few groups that I sing with. One is the Romolas Chap. Other one is Robben Island Singers. The Robben Island Singers, especially the group was where we started. When we released in Robben Island, we started the music. We used to sing a lot in prison. We said, look, if today we drop down, we die today, who will be knowing all these stories? So we're telling stories through music, not just singers. We're telling stories. Most of us know when you sing, why do you sing? Telling stories through music. That's why songs represent different epochs of our struggle. That at this time, this is what was happening. At this time, this is what was happening. So we have this Pamberi now. So what I'm going to do before I come, because I want to come to Doi Doi also, talk about Doi Doi, talk about slogan and glitches. But maybe in person, let me mention it, Chair. Okay. Oh, thanks. There's a lot of time for me. Yeah. She said I still have time to talk. Right, Doi is a war dance, right? The first people that learned Doi were people that were trained in Egypt. It was used by the Egyptians. Communists that trained in the 60s, the little detachment that I spoke about earlier. They went to Egypt. There was a course what was called the Rangers course. Later it called the Commandos course. Also did the training Commandos course. But when it was a Rangers course, it was very rough and tough. Some people died. No. Do the training. It's a very tough training. Even the Commandos course is not easy. I think less than half of you can survive in that course, the Commandos course. I mean, you stay for 3 days without eating. You do normal training. You go from here to Kailish and come back. And I was sharing with my colleagues that They said they fear snakes. I said, no, now we have hundreds or thousands of snakes. They were all over snakes, so could not avoid the snake. But one thing we're taught that when a snake comes to, don't move. Allow the snake to move. But if you move, the snake will think that you are fighting, it will hit you and you die. I remember we were doing a tactic. One of the training is called a tactic that we had our bags, with a knapsack, a mallet mine, very heavy, and a very heavy rifle. Well, then, if I can estimate maybe from here to Goodwood and coming back. But we did the tactic. Then we get instruction, jump, crawl, cover. When you take cover, you must take cover, you see. And I remember when I was taking cover, I took cover in front of a very big snake. When everybody was up at a unit of 12, our commander was one who did not know we were going to get instructions, run, turn, everything. When they said cover, we took cover. Initially, I thought it was this troop of a car. I thought it was a troop of a car. But I felt this troop is moving. I said, oh, it's a big snake. Then when they left, I could not wake up immediately because it was going to kill me. I was in trouble. Then the snake, I put all the weight, I'm sweating. The snake is in trouble. Now I'm not. I'm both in trouble. Want to escape from each other, and you don't know how to escape from each other. Then slowly I was rolling. Slowly, and I was hiding my face because I could not see the heat. It was in the evening, very dark. As I was rolling slowly, the comrades they left. The snake was also unrolling. Both of us were doing this movement very slow. And I was rolling with my face covered. It must not hit me in the face. I did not care if the snake hits me anywhere, but I was worried about the face. Which must not hit me in the face. As I did this slowly, rolling on one side. When I felt now I'm out of it, slowly, the comrades left. I did not know where they were going, where they came. It's in the evening. Only person that knows the route is the commander. Then the snake was free from me. As I was free from the snake. But I could only hear the sound. It was a big snake. I said, when I woke up, I said, today I was supposed to die. I was telling myself, today I was supposed to die. Why I did not die? Maybe I was being saved so that I tell you the story, because you will not come to know the story. So I won't go into the story. The story is very long, what happened afterwards. But I survived a very big snake. So I have these songs that I want to talk about. Ito was a war cry that encourages you. Because it came from Egypt to Zimbabwe with zebra. The zebra and commandos, because they did commandos course together. The zebra also did it. Doi, how. Doi, how. See? Doi means you must jump with both legs. Doi, for some don't know what meaning of doi. They just say doi. Doi, what's doi? I don't know. Doi, you see. So it changed from how, twice. Do it once, doi, how, heaven about, how, see, hell in the morning, how, kalimbo, how, during supper time, how, that is of doi, see, kalumpopo is a card, but it is called Ndebele is a card umpopo, see, that's why they speak about umpopo. So these are the songs that I'm sharing, that the songs were representing a particular epoch in our struggle. And I remember that time when we said it was reflecting those conditions. But I will sing in the last 20 minutes that she's giving me. One Namibian song, and I'm going to sing one verse and Zimbabwean song, Frelimo song, then and I'm going to stop there, right? This one, Namibian song is called Lamakano. This one, I'm going to sing it, right? Fortunately, we don't know it. Beg me. Kano, yekundu yetu ya hana, msiwapo, otohala yetu, eolige na mipia, vama bebe, atu hende na tujeni, wahonike, obo, tuli, mangulule, omeme, no date no I'm sure we know this one, some of you. But South Africa, they don't say Kurepu, they say Wele, but they don't know these words. That's why I say Wele. It's not the Wele, it's Kurepu. Kurepu, Watinova. Kurepu, Watinova. Hey mama, hey mama. Dondo Samanara Zimbabwe. Kurepu, Watinova. Kurepu, Watinova. Hey mama, hey mama. Dondo Samanara Zimbabwe. Masikana doyana Samanara Zimbabwe. Hey mama, Dondo Samanara Zimbabwe. When you say Samanara Zimbabwe, don't mean Samanara. Samanara Zimbabwe. Voilà. You know this one, Pamela? This one needs some baking. Pamela Chimurena, Pamela Ono, Pamela Chimurena. Right? Please, I need some baking this one. Right? Pamela Ono, Pamela Chimurena, Pamela Ono, This is the book that I've told the stories that I was sharing, part of the stories that I was sharing. But an autobiography for those that came, Jizin, it's called Still We Rise, the Journey of a Freedom Fighter. Let the back freedom is not free, it is costly, it requires commitment, determination, discipline, and sacrifices. This is the journey the author traveled as a brutal activist, MK soldier, and a brutal prisoner. The journey that does not stop, but only end when one is in the grave. In other words, that's why I say brutal continues, not continuous. It ends when one just dead in the grave. That's the end of the story. Thank you.
Dog, I'm so humbled. I have no words. My takeaway is Lindeli Mpendo, just like we're waiting for a sign from God. Thank you so much once again, Tatumuntu. Next we have Ulwazi Pagadi. Bless us. Let's give him a round of applause.
Umangishila
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to be as short as possible. When I'm given an opportunity to speak, I usually take about an hour or two, but I'll try to be as short as 15 minutes today. I'd first like to thank the organizers of this event. Let me quickly time myself. Yes. I'd like to first thank the organizers of this auspicious event. I've always wanted to use the word auspicious for inviting me to share my views on the topic before us today, the role of struggle songs in the attainment of our freedom. I'd also like to acknowledge the director of the museum in absentia, the staff members of the university, fellow students, comrades, and all distinguished guests. In South Africa, struggle songs and accompanying chants and dances played a very critical role in the struggle against colonialism and apartheid, and they still continue to flourish in the post-apartheid South Africa. So when we speak of the post-apartheid South Africa, we speak of the time between 1994 and today. The culture of singing and dancing has always been an intrinsic part of the African culture. Our people sing to express grief, happiness, or disagreement towards the government. And this is a culture that we as young Africans have inherited from our forefathers. Struggle songs have helped us to mobilize people, give people a shared identity, and to articulate a particular message in different contexts. Before I dwell more into what struggle songs mean for us as young people who continue to fight against systematic oppressions and exclusions in these high echelons, which are our universities, I want to first deal with the question of songs as ancestral text. So, we had Comrade Muntu sharing with us some ancestral songs or songs that were sung back in the day. But I want to interrogate what it means for a song to be an ancestral text and what it means for a song to be a song. Kondlo Mchali and Gugu Chongwane in the Journal of Black Studies argue that liberation songs are ancestral text, which is a view that I fundamentally agree with. To argue that liberation songs are ancestral texts, they expand from the work of Paul Ricoeur, who suggests that for something to be a text, a song in this instance, it has to fit 5 characteristics, which are objectivity, autonomy, openness, importance, and relevance. So a song needs to be important, a song needs to be open, and a song needs to be autonomous and relevant as well. With this short contribution today, I want to lean towards this argument and narrative to show how the role that liberation songs have played in the history of our country and the role that they play now. There are many important songs which played a significant role during apartheid. But to begin this, I want to choose Nkosi Sikelel by Enoch Sondonga and Nathi Ndoda Emnyama Fairfoot by Vuyisile Mini. And I'm choosing these 2 particular songs because they both have a particular meaning that they meant 2 different things based on the times that they were both sung. Luckily, Comrade Muntu has already explained, gave us a brief explanation of Nkosi Sikelel in Africa. With Nkosi Sikelel in Africa by Sondonga, which was probably composed as an African Christian hymn without the thought of any politics, the folk-like simplicity of the melody and sincerity and deeply felt sentiment of the words make a direct, instantaneous appeal to all Africans. So what we have now is our national anthem, which says Nkosi Sikelel' iAfrika, maluphakanyiswe uphondo lwayo. These are yeah, the thing is I'm used to I know the English part. So the song in itself, in its creation, was a Christian hymn which had no political attachment to it. But black people in South Africa at the time saw their conditions fitting to the song that was asking God that was appealing to God to help them with the conditions that they were in. This shows that cultural objects such as songs become objective and independent of their makers once composers put them in the public sphere. So once the song was put out in the public sphere for people to consume it, the public decided to do what it wants to do with the song. For example, during Fees Must Fall, we had songs that we had changed. We had songs by Zahara that we would also sing during the protest. But now Zahara cannot come to us and say, I did not dedicate the song towards Fees Must Fall. It is what we do with the song that changes the meaning. Not so long ago in Wits University, a video of an EFF command student went viral as he was singing the now called decolonized national anthem. This song resonated with many of us and it touched a certain part in our hearts and evoked certain feelings. I'm sure that I'm not the only one in this room who at least sheds a tear when that middle part comes in. How no se unzima. From the hymn, and in this instance, though politically adapted, was first composed and sung by the Seventh Adventist student movement in Wits. These songs are open to different interpretations by different social activists. For example, as a Stellenbosch University student, instead of saying "Sihlukunyezwa kabuhlungu," I'd rather opt to singing "Sihlukunyezwa ngamabhulu." Because that is the unfortunate context of Stellenbosch. We are fighting against a racist institution that has long excluded black students into coming to it. Similarly, once Mini composed Indo Temnyama, it became independent of him and was available for the later generation to use it. So, I think Miriam Makeba also sings the song, yeah, so it says, the song goes, here comes the black man for food. Here comes the black man for food. Basopa, for food. Watch out for the black man for food. It was a directive song that, hey, watch out. But in UCT, during Rose Must Fall, the radical wing of the feminists in Rose Must Fall adapted the song and changed Indoda Emnyama to Mfazo Mnyama. Now Mfazo Mnyama for food, here comes the black man for food. Now Mfazo Mnyama for food, here comes the black woman for food. Basopa na Mfazo Mnyama for food. Watch out for the black woman for food. But the most important thing about this was that at UCT, in the context of the time when we in Rhodes Must Fall, the song was not only changed based on gender basis, but on who the students were saying must watch out. So the song was changed into saying Nakumfazo Mnyama Max Price, who's the outgoing Vice Chancellor at UCT. Nakumfazo Mnyama Max Price, Basopa Nakumfazo Mnyama Max Price, which was saying that Max Price must watch out because the radical feminists are here. What we can also pick up from this is that Christian hymns served African nationalists as covert expressions of protest against colonialism. Most liberation songs were simply reinterpretation of religious songs. Political activists would alter and radicalize religious songs. For example, the song we sang during Fizz Must Fall, Mamoyawam, it is also a gospel song that is radicalized. It is radicalized in the sense that when it is sung in a protest setting, everyone gets into the spirit of the song. So you get into the spirit of the song. The song basically doesn't say anything besides saying Mamoyawam. Can my spirit agree, or my spirit allow me to do what I want to do? So it is up to you to decide what you want to do at that time, or to tell what your spirit must agree to. We, in the context of our time, we're telling our spirits that it must agree to fight against patriarchy, against racism, against institutional racism, and against the oppression of black students in institutions of higher learning, and agreeing towards decolonized education as well. These songs have an ability to explain and communicate a particular message with people who otherwise would not have understood where we are coming from. This is also where a mobilization comes in. In Stellenbosch during Fizz Must Fall, we used to walk around all residences singing and mobilizing fellow students to join the protest. It is through these songs that many students came out to support and to listen. Struggle songs touch different people differently, as I've said. People relate to songs based on their upbringing, circumstances in which they live under, whether at university or at home. For example, I relate so much to the historical struggle songs that says, my mother was a kitchen girl, my father was a garden boy. So, yes, so that's why I'm a communist, that's why I'm a socialist. Because these are conditions in which our parents used to work in and still do. More than the fact that the song has now been remade and added with a lot of interesting parts, such as nobody wants to see us together, no one wants to see us at school. The song is still a very important historical tune that has stood the test of time. It explains why we're in this fight, and that it is not by choice but by the circumstances we continue to face. Now, on the Malema versus AfriForum case before the Equality Court of South Africa in 2011, the applicant AfriForum took Julius Malema, the then leader of the ANC Youth League, as well as the ANC, to court over the singing of the song Tubuli Bull, which means shoot the bull. In summary, the Equality Court ruled that the first respondent, the ANC Youth League, and the second respondent should not sing the song again in public gatherings or in private gatherings because it constitutes to hate speech. And Comrade Muntu touched a bit on this about how some songs were about responding to the system itself. So, for example, in my view, in the view that I take on the judgment before the High Court in 2011, I don't necessarily believe that the banning of the struggle song Tubuli Bull was correct, nor do I believe that it constituted to hate speech. The singing of such songs, as mentioned above, is to appeal to the ancestry, as I've said before. It evokes certain encouraging spirits about the revolution and places our people at a place where they understand what constitutes the enemy. Ibulu in the song does not necessarily represent the white man or the white farmer, but the general system that still advantages white people in the post-apartheid context. Therefore, in singing the song, we are not sending students to go around to shoot at other white students, nor we are saying that fellow South Africans must shoot at one another. We are simply appealing to the archives of historical encouragement. During Fees Must Fall, just as it may, if I'm still in time, yes, as I land or as I, sit down. During Fees Must Fall, just as it may have been during the anti-apartheid struggle songs made us not to see the bullets and the guns that the police used to shoot at us, the court interdicts, the intimidation and the brutalization by men in black private securities. Some of these songs we sang used to frighten the riot police, who though fearful, maintained a stoic presence. Some here will remember the historical evening when we occupied Admin B, and the sheriff from the court came to serve us with a notice of eviction and our interdict. We sang and sang and sang, and the sheriff was standing looking at us, and I could see that he was scared. But obviously he had to maintain a position of strong posture and stoic. Some of these songs we sang in 2015 were new, some were remixed, and some were old songs from the anti-apartheid, that's my time, from the anti-apartheid struggle. We will remember Solomon as one of the most important songs during this time. It united everyone across racial groups. I would see white students raising both of their fists, saying "Yo Solomon," and then following with an unrhythmic clap. And the lyrics of the song gave a brief history of who Solomon Mahlangu was, what did he do, what was he about. So, in my conclusion, I have a list of some of the songs that we sang that I wanted to share with you. We had Yo Solomon, Shiwelele, the song that I began with. We had chants, Chiyo, Mama Chiyo, Kuta, Basco, Tunya. And then we had Elilizo Lokoko Betu, Sisendleleni Siyeza, Emaweni we Mama no Baba. So there are many other various songs, and my duty today was simple, was to share our role, or the role of struggle songs in the pre and post-apartheid context, and how these songs still play a role in mobilizing students, in making sure that students achieve what they want to achieve. And I think as I sit down, I've concluded that role and I've fulfilled it. Thank you very much. Amanda.
Thank you very much, Vasil. I think in the interest of time, I will not comment. I'll speak afterwards. Next is Umaseho. Please let's give a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. I would have sang, but I can't sing and there's no time, so sorry. Before I proceed, I'd just like to reiterate what Babalwa said about how much of an honor it is to have someone like Dadu here with us to share his experiences and the role that he played in creating struggle songs to attain our freedom. And I'd also just like to thank both Dadu Muntu and Lwazi for, just sharing their experiences and for giving some much needed context to struggle songs and their role in the attainment of our freedom. Mino getolwana wa bophelo. What I mean by this is that music is the fruit of life. Music is the fruit that one bears when one can no longer articulate what one is feeling through ordinary speech. Struggle songs specifically epitomize the idea, as not only do they mobilize and help spread a revolutionary spirit, but they also carry a wealth of emotion, be it pain, hope, victory, and so on. It is probably quite strange that someone like me, who was born free and was not present during Fees Must Fall and other such student movements, is speaking about struggle songs. This is not something I've had to rely on to express myself. I do, however, form a part of the group of people who listen to struggle songs recreationally. Growing up in a family where music is as essential as water and political consciousness is vital, I could not escape being bitten by the struggle song loving bug. The problem with this, however, lies in the possibility of my romanticizing of struggle songs. Being someone who was privileged enough, as I mentioned, to be born free, I have never been in a position where I have had to hold on to struggle songs like Utatu Muntu had to in the promise of a better tomorrow. I sing songs like Imbi Lendau and Senze Nina out of context. Furthermore, I was also not present to be in the front lines of student movements like the Must Fall and End Outsourcing and End Rape Culture movements. And so I sing songs like the Decolonized National Anthem and Vulindlela out of context. I realize how easy it is for me to sing these songs and not realize the powerful meaning rooted in the songs. I realize that I cannot claim to understand the pain that drove people who were stripped of their rights and their dignity, people who were censored so intensely that their pain had to be performed in the form of struggle music. It is for this reason that I challenge myself to be cognizant of the struggle music that I listen to, cognizant of what is being said, and cognizant of why it's being said. I also challenge myself to listen to the songs with reverence. I challenge myself to sing these songs with reverence. I challenge my songs to not appropriate struggles that don't belong to me. I challenge myself to listen to struggle songs and to sing struggle songs in an attempt to commemorate the efforts that were put in to attain the freedom that I'm privileged enough to enjoy. And so I just like to close by saying that, you know, as someone who, as I mentioned earlier, is privileged enough to be born free and who's privileged enough to be in a space like Stellenbosch, post Fees Must Fall, when a lot of the privileges that I enjoy, people like me who were here 2 years ago couldn't enjoy. I just want to say thank you to those people, and thank you to those people who, when words had failed, used struggle songs and who were forced to perform their pain to attain freedom for people like me. Thank you.